Slaughter daughter's a badass bitch. As you were. Hi. There we go. Hello. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to the Slaughter Daughter House. I am Kelly Slaughter Daughter Rivas, and with me now is Zazel from Sergeant Slaughter Slaughterhouse.
That's me.
Thanks for joining.
That's all right. Yeah, I'm not the guest. We're still waiting on the guest, but why don't we, while we're waiting for our guest of honor, let's say hi to the chat.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Hey. Hey. Hey, Gaz.
Thumb kiss for Gaz.
Hey, Dale. Hey, Perseus. Dragon Ball Z.
It's Pericles.
Oh, Pericles.
Dragon Ball Z.
Well, now I got
now we both have corrected each other.
Well, hey, Classified. Hey, Phil. Or Treasures for Trigger. Good morning.
Oh, we also have Spine Ticks.
Hey, wasabi.
Wasabi. Yeah, not the guest. Hi.
Hi, not the guest.
No, I'm not the guest. But I'll fill in. I'll fill in the meantime.
Hey, Ken.
So, as we were sitting backstage, Kelly, I noticed that you had a war wound on your elbow.
I do.
Yeah. What happened there?
Just a little one. Well, I fell.
Was it from the Spartan stuff, or is it just an embarrassing story?
That is from the Spartan. And we will actually be talking with my team, Chris and Cambry, next Friday, the 2nd, December.
Team Roll Like a Taco.
Team Roll Like a Taco.
So what date? What was the date for that one again?
So it's December 2nd for me, but the 3rd for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got it in my calendar. I've got that one in my calendar.
Good.
So how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, Thanksgiving was great. I had a great Thanksgiving. I really enjoyed the time that I spent with friends that are like family. I've known that group of people for 40 years. I was like 3.5 when I met them and moved in next door. And their son, Michael, was my best friend. We were completely inseparable. I mean, wherever Michael was, Kelly was too. And wherever Kelly was, Michael was there too.
Right.
He's got a really funny story about we were over at a friend of ours' house who lived up the street a little. And he said something or did something, and I did not like what he said. So I hauled back and smacked him across the face.
Yikes. What did he say?
Well, I took off running.
Okay. But I mean, what did he say to get the slap first?
We can't remember. But I was like, whatever you said, you deserved that slap. Because I wouldn't have slapped you for no reason.
Right.
And, or he did. So we don't remember. But we remember the slap. And I turned around and took off running. And I think I was probably laughing also. And so he took off after me. But we were inside. So I had the advantage because I was already standing and he was stunned. I gave him a stunner,
Yeah.
So I had a pretty good, what do they call it when you go ahead?
Head start.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a pretty good head start. And I took off out of the house and I was running down the hill to my house as fast as I could. And I just crossed over his yard and I was just getting into my yard and he got a hold of my hair and pulled me back. I went flying, hit the ground, and he stood over me and he was like, "That's for smacking me." And yeah. So he got me pretty good.
Fair enough. Fair's fair.
Yeah.
All's fair in love and war.
Yeah, exactly.
So Phil's got a question: did he land on the other side of the room after the slap? Other side of the yard, maybe.
Yeah. I smacked him pretty hard. he was stunned because it's really funny when he tells the story because he's like, and I was like, bam. Oh, like,
he's got Looney Tunes sound effects to go with it.
like looking at like stars and birds
Yeah.
going around his head, and then he's looking for me, and I'm gone. So, but yeah, I remember that very clearly. Don't remember what he said, but hey, W vlogs or vogs, vogs.
Yeah.
How would you pronounce that?
Yeah. Wovogs. That's how I would say it, but I'd be wrong. Hey, I've got a comment here by Adam. This is actually a pretty funny story. We were talking about squatching yesterday. That's become our thing now. We'll talk about squatching, which is when you go out looking for Sasquatch. Have you ever done anything quite like? Actually, that brought up because the reason why we're talking about Sasquatch is because we're talking about Andre the Giant. I know how much you like Andre the Giant because he played Bigfoot on I think it was the $1 Million Man. That show. What was his name again? Why am I forgetting the name of the $1 Million Man? Not Ted DiBiase, the other one, the mechanical one. What's his name again? That's going to bug me. Gaz will know. Gaz will hit me up with the knowledge. Yeah. Anyway, so apparently there's a big popular thing where you go out looking for Bigfoot. Have you ever gone out into the woods looking for a mythical creature like Sasquatch? Have you ever gone squatching? $6 million man. He's a little bit more than $1 million man. Thank you, Steve Austin. Done it. Thanks, guys. I was a few million off.
Yeah, few million. Well, you said $1 Million Man, but not Ted DiBiase, and I was like, well, then I don't know.
Yeah, $6 million man. He's even more millions. Oh yeah, so squatching.
So I've never gone squatching.
Yeah.
For Sasquatch, for the Yeti, but I did always look for unicorns when I was young.
Okay, how'd we go with that? Anything?
Did.
So the
I
Yeti
never found one.
It's unfortunate.
It is.
Yeti and Bigfoot are two different things, though, right? Yeti's the abominable snowman.
It is?
Yeah.
I thought Sasquatch. What's the other name for Sasquatch?
Bigfoot.
No, but there's another. It starts with a Y.
No, we've got Yowies in Australia.
No,
they're not the same thing though. Someone in the chat will tell us the difference.
Yes.
This is what we go live for. We ask the hard questions. All right, we need to know. We need to know the answers.
Exactly.
What you talking about? Stone Cold Steve Austin? Wait, no, you're talking about the $6 million man. What? Yeah, I know. I wasn't making much sense until the chat finally let me know it was Steve Austin.
Yes, Steve Austin. Hey, Nolan.
Go figure with the...
They're cousins.
There you go. Go Figure will give us... That's Adam from Go Figure. He'll give us the top 5 Sasquatch/Yeti movies. If anyone knows, it's him.
There is a great movie about Sasquatch or maybe a Yeti. Maybe that's why I'm getting confused. It was a cartoon. I loved that movie. It was great. I took my son to see it. Can't remember.
Okay, cool. I remember the one with the Christmas special where Rudolph goes and visits the abominable snowman.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you got to climb the rainbow.
Either. I always looked for the end of the rainbow because I wanted that pot of gold, and it was always out of my reach. I could never find the.
It never seems that hard though. But have you ever been as a kid in the back seat of the car? I've never been driving in the front seat of the car, by the way. I've no idea what that experience is like. But have you ever been a kid in the back seat of the car and the lights hit something just right and it creates a rainbow in the car?
Only if there was like some kind of prism in the car for the light to hit.
Yeah. You'd think that'd be an easy win, right? Instant gold, ready to go. But no.
Never happens. I did on St. Patrick's Day, we go look for leprechauns.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I wonder what they do in every other day, though, because surely they're still around, right?
Yeah.
Might be easier to find a leprechaun.
St. Patrick's Day.
It might be easier to find one when it's not St. Patrick's Day.
When they know they're being looked for, so then they hide.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So Go Figure's given us our top 5 Squatch Yeti movies. 1, Remains of the Day. 2, Still Magnolias. 3, My Girl, great movie. 4, Mystic Pizza. And 5, The Switchblade Sisters. All great Yeti / Squatch movies. Have you seen any of those?
I have. I've seen
Yep.
Steel Magnolias, My Girl, Mystic Pizza.
Did you
We
ever see
made
My Girl
it
2?
today. I tried to watch, but it was like too long and boring. So I never got into that one.
I don't know that one.
But I was young when I was trying to watch it, like when it first came out. So it just was not my thing at all.
My Girl, so sad. Sad ending. Well, I don't know. This is like partway through, right? Is it the
Where's
ending?
his glasses? He
Yeah,
can't
he
see
needs his glasses. He
without
can't see. Poor Macaulay Culkin. Oh dear. Yeah, My Girl 2. Did you ever see that one?
No, I didn't see My Girl 2.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin did not come back for that one. That would have made a very interesting return. Yeah, My Girls 2. The bees are back.
Harry and the Hendersons. I loved Henry and the Hendersons. Harry and the
I love the
Hendersons.
movie. I didn't really see the TV show, but apparently Hacksaw Jim Duggan was on it.
I don't remember that. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I think the guy in the suit was the same guy that played. This is definitely fact check me on this one, but I think it was the same guy that played Hellboy. Am I right or am I wrong? Because if it's not, they look pretty much the same.
Yeah, what is that actor's name? I know exactly who you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
Ron Perlman played Hellboy.
Yeah, Ron Perlman.
Did Ron Perlman? That I know. I know what I know. So if I go to trivia, I know the answers that I know. I am wrong. Okay, I'm wrong.
My dad is a trivia question.
Yeah.
You are wrong.
I am wrong. Ron Perlman played the Beast. Yeah. He played the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. For some reason, I thought he also played Harry. I'm going to look at who played Harry from Harry and the Hendersons and check the TV show too. Ah, there we are. The guy in the Harry suit is the same guy that wore the Predator suit. Thank you.
Never wrong. You know what we always say in my family, Zazel?
Tell me.
I thought I was wrong once, but I was mistaken.
Right. I'm going to keep that. I'll keep that for my very own. Okay, Kevin Peter Hall, rest in peace. Please, rest in peace, sorry. He played Predator. Okay. Kevin Peter Hall. Have I derailed your stream with talking about mythical creatures? Oh, no. Because we have a guest waiting to go.
The guest is here.
Yeah, I'll step out and I'll bring your guest in, and then you can do your proper introductions.
All right, wonderful.
That was quick. That was really quick. Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Good. How are you? I'm so happy to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
I'm good. If you guys could be here right now, my whole house smells like breakfast. We did a breakfast for dinner.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Trying to wrap everything up before I came up here. So there's biscuits and sausage and bacon and eggs, and it's just the whole spread.
Yum.
It's amazing. So I'm full and I'm ready to talk. So
awesome.
Here we are.
I was gonna say you ate first though, right?
Yeah.
Good.
I did.
Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Slaughter Daughter House. I am happy that you're here. So you have a very interesting story to tell. And I first heard about your story from Frank the Christmas Gargoyle.
Which is this whole thing, being here right now and talking to you, it really is the epitome of what a small world, right? And just how connected we are. Yeah, I don't know if you want to tell the story of Frank or I should, but it's really kind of what brought us together. And it's kind of one of the things that even made what I was doing last year possible, because it helped get the reach. So who should tell the story of Frank? Because that's such a bizarre one, right?
Yeah, well, I'll start and then you can kind of fill in any holes that I come up with.
Sounds good.
I actually looked for Frank the Gargoyle and the page is gone, but we'll talk about that. So Frank the Gargoyle started out, I believe a woman had gotten this gargoyle and had him sitting on her front step around Halloween. And Halloween came and went, and she just kind of kept him out there. And then Christmas came along, and her friendly neighborhood Karen sees Frank the gargoyle, and it's like, oh, no, 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 no. That is not an appropriate Christmas decoration. So she starts to send letters and harass this owner of Frank and telling her that she has to take down Frank the gargoyle because he is not a Christmas decoration. So what does she do? She does exactly what I would have done. She got a Santa hat and put a Santa hat on Frank the gargoyle and said he is now Frank the Christmas gargoyle. And from there, it just kind of snowballed, and Karen was not happy at all.
Yeah.
At all. And people started sending her things. I feel bad because I don't know her name. Do you know her name? The Frank's owner?
Yes, her name's Denise.
Denise. Oh, thank you very much. So Denise started having people send her things to add to Frank so that Frank wouldn't be alone and by himself. And so she had, like, I think she got another gargoyle at one point. Karens are never happy. They are not. Merciless. She had like a skeleton, I think, and like so many different things. I think there were like action figures out there at one point, and all sorts of different things that were not Christmas at all. But she made them Christmas by putting hats on them or lights, or I think there was a Christmas tree. So Denise ended up getting shirts made for Frank the Christmas Gargoyle, and she sold them and raised money for various charities, which is amazing. And that's just awesome that she did that. But then one day she posted your story, and your story touched me, and so pulled at my heartstrings. And so I reached out to Denise, and I was like, hey, so do you think he's a fan of Sergeant Slaughter? Because I am his daughter, and I would love to get some merch, some swag to him, just as like, I love what you do. The charity that you raised money for, Ricky, was close to my heart also. So it was just like all around like this, I need to do something for him. So she said, sure, here's his address. And so I sent you a couple things, and then you reached back out, and yes, love it. I love it. And so then, you reached out and thanked me for it. And so that kind of brought us here. But I actually went to go look because I was like, I need to like reread what she had written about you. So to like refresh myself and prepare for this. And the page is gone.
Well,
You know what
here's
happened?
here's the cool thing. I can fill in some kind of fun blanks for
Yeah.
you here because
Okay.
it's a really interesting story, and you did a great job of sort of retelling it. But I'm about to kind of blow your mind with some of the in betweens.
Okay.
So let's rewind a little bit. So you get the basic idea. The basic idea being she got this gargoyle statue, she put it in the front yard. Neighbor didn't like it, started sending nasty grams. And then when she started posting about it on social media, then the news got a hold of it. And then once the news got a hold of it, boom, it was this viral story. So it started blowing up, and Denise was a big fan of the Cincinnati Zoo, in particular, Fiona the hippo. And so she was a big fan of Cincy shirts, where I was working at the time as an illustrator and a designer. So the custom sales guy comes to me like 2 weeks before Christmas, and he goes, "Hey, I have a client. She wants to do shirts. She's got this Facebook page. I don't know. It's called Frank the Gargoyle." And I was like, or Frank the Christmas Gargoyle. And I go, "It's 2 weeks before Christmas. There's no way we're gonna get Christmas shirts out. Like, we're busy. We've got all this stuff going on." He goes, "Yeah, just design it whenever you can design it. We'll get to it." So I didn't think anything of it. I had no clue this was going on. She's in Dayton, Ohio. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. About a 45-minute kind of stretch. So finally, he kind of taps on my shoulder once Christmas is over. It's like, "Hey, could you get a whole, maybe finish this Frank the Gargoyle design? Here's some pictures. This is her front yard, and it's this gargoyle, and it's a flamingo, and it's a plague doctor. It's like all these characters." And I just start drawing them, like, cartooning them and putting the design together. And then she launches the shirt. And we all kind of work from home, so we're kind of sitting there, on the chat and everything. And he goes, "Oh, okay, we launched Frank the Gargoyle," and he goes, "Huh, an hour in, we sold 200. 2 hours in, we sold 1,000. 3 hours in, we're at 5,000 shirts." Like, and like, you understand, like, we sell shirts for Cincinnati Bengals, Cincinnati Reds, Cincinnati Zoo, Gold Star Chili, all these things, and we've never seen anything like this before. Like,
Wow.
it's like crashing the servers, right? And
Wow.
I've never designed a shirt that sold more than 1,000 shirts before, right? So it just became this gigantic thing, and we're going like, oh my gosh, because our partners would get a royalty from the t-shirts, right? So in theory, we would owe Denise a $30,000 check or something, right? Because the
Wow.
shirts just kept selling and selling and selling. And this was post Christmas, by the way. And so she's like, well, I don't want the money. The money's going to go to charity. So she would just continue to, there he is. She would just
Yay!
continue to give money to different charities. So Valentine's Day would come around, we do a Frank Valentine shirt. Summer would come around, we do Frank's summer party, all that stuff. And so each time we put out a Frank shirt, it was a different charity. And so, we'll get to the wrestling part of it, but when I decided to do the match, I sent Denise a message, and at that point we'd become, friends because I'm designing all these t-shirts. And I said, "Hey, I know you're going to do a Frank Halloween T-shirt." I said, "I'm getting ready to do this wrestling thing. What if the proceeds of the Frank shirt went to the charity that I'm trying to raise money for wrestling, and we kind of partner up, and you can kind of help me sell tickets because I'm giving all the ticket sales to the charity." And she was into it big time, and so we became really close. And I said, "Well, it's going to be so close to Christmas. It's going to be right after Thanksgiving." I said, "Do you think you could bring Frank to the match? People could meet him in person, right?" This is the most bizarre thing because he's a statue. So she did, and so you know how like you go to the mall, right, and you get your picture with Santa at the mall. People were getting their picture with Santa, but it was Frank, right, at the wrestling match.
That is awesome.
So we had people who had no interest in wrestling whatsoever showing up just to see Frank. So
Wow.
it was the craziest thing in the world, right? But we worked together and we wound up doing, just gangbusters. We did over 10 grand for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
That's
So to
amazing.
be able to stand in the ring and hold one of those big checks like they give you on The Price is Right, um, wow, like that was unbelievable. And so to answer your question, yeah, to run that page was a lot of work. It was a lot of questions, a lot of answers. It was a lot of coming up with creative stories and photo shoots to keep everybody engaged. I mean, Frank had fans all around the world. We were shipping t-shirts to Germany, France, Japan. Like Frank's reach was unbelievable. So, yeah, it was a lot of work. And she just said, "You know what? We're just going to take a break for a little while. I'm going to take a year off from Frank." So the page is not gone as much as it is on hiatus. And I think he'll be back at
Ah,
some point.
okay. Well, good. I'm glad that he's coming back. I actually signed a petition today to bring him back.
I'll
Because
let
I
her
was like,
know. I'll let
no,
her
bring
know.
him back.
I'll,
That's
I'll
amazing.
let her know because he skipped this Christmas. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because right because Christmas is not here yet. That's how
Right.
fast things move in my world. Like everything. Like the fact that Thanksgiving's already come, the fact that a year has already passed since I've done this whole thing, is just incredibly weird to me.
Yeah, because tomorrow is the year anniversary of your
Right.
match. And the charity that you raised money for was the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
Right.
And that, I'm definitely an advocate for mental health awareness. My sister is a therapist. And so I'm a huge advocate, and the stigma about mental health and all of that. So it really definitely, like I said, pulled at my heartstrings. And I just couldn't help but reach out and get something to you.
Well, I appreciate it. And, we were talking about this while we were out today. And I told my wife, I said, it's so cool to do this podcast. I said, because, it's all about the wrestling match and the wrestling was the connection. And I'll never forget. It was so funny when Denise sent me that message. She goes, somebody reached out on the page. She said her dad's a wrestler or something, right? And I was like, oh, really? And I thought, oh, it's, a independent guy or something. She goes, "Have you ever heard of Sergeant Slaughter?" What? Yeah, right, because this is what we were talking about. In the car, I told my wife, I said, I didn't really start watching wrestling till I was in the second grade. And spoiler alert, last month I just turned 40, right? Big scary number. So in the second grade, that would have been like 1990, but I was a Sergeant Slaughter fan before I was a wrestling fan. So when I start tuning in and then I see that the guy that I sent the mail away in for the figure was also on wrestling, but a bad guy, right? It totally blew my mind. But yeah, I was a Sergeant Slaughter fan way before I was a wrestling fan. So it cracked me up, which is, have you ever heard of this guy, Sergeant Slaughter? I said, yes, yes, I have. And so um it was the coolest thing, and in fact, one of the things that my wife got for me for Christmas last year was she took the picture that Sarge sent me and signed to me and framed it alongside of my wrestling gear that I wore that night. So it's like a
Oh,
super special part of the experience, right? And that's just what really, had it, sink into me that wow, we're doing something kind of cool. And the fact that I've got Sarge kind of spiritually in my corner, right? How
yeah,
cool is that? And it is cool because we were talking about this as well. you know, the gear that I decided to wear that night was, red, white, and blue, very patriotic. And I did that for a couple of reasons. Number one, like I've never really been a super patriotic guy. It was almost like it became sort of not cool to be patriotic over the last few years.
right.
But during the lockdowns, during COVID, when we were all kind of isolated, and we're left with nothing but our thoughts, and you start thinking about freedom, and you start thinking about your life, and things like that, and so it was important to me to wear that on my sleeve, quite literally, because you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I wanted to wear the red, white, and blue, because nobody does it anymore, right? It's like it's not cool anymore. But I wanted to kind of bring it back, and it meant a lot to me to wear those colors, and to fly that flag. And I don't think yeah, the picture that you can see on my leg there, it says Team Frank. So of course I had to have that on there as well for Frank. It says it on my chest too.
Awesome.
But yeah, I don't know. I said I just turned 40. I'm looking at these pictures. I'm like, I'll never be in that good a shape again, right? I trained pretty hard to get there. Um, but
But
yeah, that's kind of the backstory of the gear and all that. But I think it's important to go back to sort of the beginning of it all, right? Because it is really crazy. I have two children, and they're in elementary school, and I have a wife. She's wonderful. What would possess somebody who's on the cusp of 40, right, to do something like this? And I think that's a good place to sort of start and to tell the story. Um, I was working, and you know everything had started to kind of hit the fan. There's this scary new virus out there, and you got to go to the store because they're going to be closed tomorrow, and we don't know how long they're going to be closed, and this small business is shutting down, and this restaurant is shutting down, and all of this was happening right before my eyes. And I think I speak for everyone when I say it was unsettling and terrifying. And obviously we're a few years removed from it now. We have a vaccine, we have treatments, we're in the clear for the most part. I think we're all good. But at the time, we didn't know that this was not the end of the world. We didn't know anything about it. We heard, what the news was reporting, and what the news was reporting, that this is going to kill you, and stay inside. And so, when you're being told that, and you're being inundated with that information, I don't want to say your life starts to flash before your eyes, but you start to think about, like, what if this is the end, right? And I don't mean that in like a really kind of like a apocalyptic way, but I mean, if this goes on for a long time, what have I not done in my life, right? Like, what's the one thing I wish I could do? And so, I'm one of those guys who, if I dream about something, if I think about it, I do it. It sounds silly, but a couple of years ago, I'm a big video game collector. I love my old school video games. It's what's behind me. I wanted to do a game, so I learned how to code. I make a game. I wanted to be on television, do a television show. I shot a pilot. We did it. And so when that thought entered my head of, okay, I'm almost 40. What is it? Something I wish I would have done? And it was wrestling, because I've always been a wrestling fan, and I've always enjoyed wrestling as a sport. I've always enjoyed wrestling as an entertainment medium, as a performance art. And I always thought, man, I would have been so good at it, you know? I mean, when we were kids, sure, we did backyard wrestling and we'd put the camera up and make videos, and for a couple months we went to wrestling school, even though it was just some guy's gym, and he just let us play around in a ring more or less, you know. But I decided to go the route of being a designer and illustrator instead, seem a little safer. um, but I always wish I would have given it a try, because I always thought, man, if I would have started when I was 18, and I would have been, I think I would have been good, especially when it comes to doing promos and interviews and crafting characters and all of those things. So that thought crossed my mind, and I'll never forget it. I was at one of my other jobs at a television station. I was working a night shift, and everybody was kind of gone. And they were like, "Okay, Ricky, this is the night you got to take your equipment home." And it was like, "Pack up your computer, put it on a cart, take it home. We'll call you back to the office one day." And
Mm.
that just hit me so hard. And I was just like, "Oh, this sucks. This is awful." And as I'm like putting all of this stuff on to a cart, I have AEW on in the background, and my good friend Leva Bates works there, and so I saw her in the crowd, and Chris Jericho was coming out, and they were all singing his song, but it was an empty arena. It was just like the only people that were in the arena were the wrestlers, but they all looked like they were having so much fun, and I was miserable. And I was like, that thought entered my head. I was like, why am I not there? Why am I not down at Daly's place in Orlando? Like, you know, having fun with all these guys. Because right now I feel like crap, and I just wanted to be there, and I thought to myself, I was like, well, what if I do? What if I just do it? What if I just do it once? And I'll never forget. I put everything on the cart. I put it in my car. I came home. My wife was on the couch, and I kind of unboxed everything, and I'm like pacing around the living room, and I'm like, and her name's Jenny, and I said, Jenny, I'm gonna do a wrestling match. And she's heard me say all kinds of stupid stuff before. And she goes, "What do you mean?" I go, I'm gonna call around to some trainers. I'm gonna train, and I'm gonna do a wrestling match. It's gonna be for charity." And at that time, she was just kind of like, "Okay, sure, whatever," you know. Um, but it didn't really sink in that I was serious. And so I started calling around. I started asking some people, "Okay, who's like the go-to guy in Cincinnati?" And unanimously, it was everybody said Cody Hawk. And I knew the name because but as a fan, I was a fan of independent wrestling and things like that. And he was kind of like responsible for so many people who are making a great living and on television today as pro wrestlers. Number one on that list, obviously, world champion, right? John Moxley. He trained John
Mhm.
Moxley in Cincinnati. He trained Eli Drake, LA Knight, Sammy Callahan, all these young guys that are just now hitting their stride on television, Shauna Reed. And so it was just like a no-brainer. You want to be good, you go to Cody. And at the same time, you're going, okay, cool, yeah. I have to call him and tell him this. He's going to think I'm a nut, because in my head, it's not like I want to train and be a full-time wrestler. I have a full-time job. I just want to do this once. I want to do it for charity, and then leave. But I know he's gonna be the kind of guy who's not gonna treat me differently, and he didn't when I met him, and I told him what I was gonna do. And there's a famous interview with him on television where he talks about this. He said, "I thought Ricky was an idiot." And, and he'll tell you this. I'm not saying this in a weird way, because he and I are great friends. He said, "I just wanted to make him quit. I was ready to pack the ring up and go down to Florida for a few months and be done with wrestling until all this stuff blows over. But here comes this kid." Because you gotta understand, wrestling school was like 2,000 bucks, right? And I showed up. First I called him, and he's like, "Okay, I get what you want to do. Okay, okay, okay. Meet me at the gym." And it was one on one, so it wasn't a big class. We weren't like doing a big super spreader thing. And he the day I showed up, he didn't expect me to show up with a $2,000 check either, right? So I paid him, and then his goal was to just make me quit. He was gonna put me through boot camp and make me quit. He was gonna make me run the ropes until my ribs were broken and my side was bleeding. He was gonna blow me up until I threw up. He was going to make me do drills until I said, "Okay, this is not for me. This is not something I can do." And he he put me through hell that first night. And then I said, "See you tomorrow." And he goes, "Yeah, see you tomorrow." But I showed up, and I kept showing up, and I kept
Mhm.
showing up, and he was like, "Okay." This guy with the dad bod, 38 years old, he's for real.
He
And
means
I
it.
was for real because my heart was into it, right? And prior to everything locking down, I had just started kickboxing classes. My kids are into martial arts, and I just became good friends with their trainer. And he kept saying, "Hey, man, we do kickboxing 3 times a week. You should go. You should go." And I thought, yeah, why not? Sounds like fun. It's the Billy Blanks kind of stuff. And if it weren't for that, I don't know if my cardio would be as good as it needed to be to do wrestling. But he kicked my butt from pillar to post. I have pictures, and I thought about sending them to you when you were asking for pictures. But
Yeah.
I mean, there are pictures of me where my whole side is black and blue just from all of
Show us
that.
some.
And but it started a little bit of a mini revolution because when I started telling my friends what I was doing, they're like, "We want to try, right?" And then
Oh,
they would show up and get their butts kicked too. So I didn't have to get my
did
butt.
they come back?
Yeah.
Okay, they did come back, so that's good.
They came back. They didn't get a chance to work a match and everything like that, but the fact that, they did train with me for a little while was really cool. But my heart was in the right place, my head was in the right place, and I got hurt. Look, along the way, I got hurt. It was a year and a half of training. Um, I had to use a cane for a little while because my back was so messed up, and I had to, just take time off here and there just because my body was just taking a beating. But I met some really great friends and some really terrific people. And everybody would say to me, backstage in the locker room, because I was helping out with some video audio stuff, because that's kind of my thing. And, they'd say, you're going to go out there, you're going to hear the people, you're going to hear the cheering, you're going to hear all that stuff. You're not going to just do one. Why would you train for 2 years and only do one match? And I said, well, because I'm already thinking about the next thing I want to do, and it's kind of like sort of a bucket list thing. And there's a reason why I didn't come back. And we can get to that story in a little bit. But I want to take a drink of this real quick. And if you can think of any
Yeah.
questions you have, about kind of where we are in the story. I'm happy to answer the questions.
Yes. Well, I want to say that I'm definitely a firm believer of you're never too old to follow your dreams. So I think it's awesome that you had this notion to just do it, even if it was for just one match. So it was like this bucket list thing. I love that. And I always say it doesn't matter how long it's going to take you to do something. Like if it's going to take you 2 years to be able to do this one match, and, or it's going to take you 4 years to go back to school to do this or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but those 4 years are going to still go by. And you can either be 4 years older and be living your dream, or you can be 4 years older going, man, I wish I had been, training for this or doing this, or I wish I'd gone back to school for this. You know, it's never too late to follow your dreams for sure. So, Zaza would like to know, what kind of injuries did you get from the training other
From
than black and blue ribs?
um, I don't know for a fact. I probably cracked ribs along the way. You know, they would do this wonderful drill where it was, hit the ropes, duck the clothesline, fall, hit the ropes, get back up, duck the clothesline, fall. And you would do this just forever. And, at first, there's that intimidation factor of just closing your eyes and falling backwards and hitting the mat and knowing how to land without knocking the wind out of yourselves. And so, there were hip tosses that went wrong and things like that.
Mhm.
I can't say that in training there was any one definitive injury. I mean, like I said, my back was kind of messed up. I kind of threw my back out a little bit, probably not from stretching properly, if you know what I mean. And
That is important.
yeah, stretching is important. It's in kickboxing, right? We do the IT band stretch, right?
Hmm.
That's the most important one of the day. So I'm told, and probably didn't stretch properly and those kind of things. Again, I probably cracked ribs. Um, I didn't check it out to see for sure, but I probably did. Um, but spoiler alert, we'll flash forward. The actual injury that I sustained was in the match, but that's a whole story in and of itself. So I
Well,
guess we can.
yes, we can definitely get into that because I think that I named this episode Overcoming Obstacles. because I knew that you had the cane that you had to walk with, but you kept persevering. You kept with it. You didn't quit. I do Spartan races, so that was kind of a play on like overcoming obstacles on that. But yeah, so tell us. So you get your training, and now the match is coming up.
Set a date. Yep.
Yeah. So you set a date for the match. So tell us about the match.
Yeah, so we set a date because I knew if I set a date, I had a definitive time to like put it together, to put the match together, to work it out, and Cody knew my strengths and weaknesses, but he also liked to push me. He knew what I thought I could do and what he knew I could do.
Because
And
you were
so
wrestling Cody.
yeah,
Is that-
that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to wrestle Cody because I trusted him. He was obviously the most seasoned veteran that you could possibly be in there with, and I knew he was going to take care of me, right? Like I knew if anything went wrong, it was going to be my fault, not his.
Right.
Um, but having him train me one on one, during lockdown and all that, I mean, there was no other option in my mind, unless Sergeant Slaughter showed up and wanted to put me in the camel clutch and cool Cobra clutch. I mean, yeah, we would have maybe had to talk Cody out of it. Although we did consider at one point doing a mixed tag match, because my friend AEW star Leva Bates, the librarian, she's a friend of mine. She was in that movie I made, I'm telling you about. Um, and so she was going to come and do the show. So it was cool to have an AEW talent on the show, right? So she was going to wrestle Shauna Reed, who was Cody's wife and also wonderful talent. Um, but we thought about maybe doing a mixed tag, me and Leva against Cody and Shauna. But I wouldn't really have worked, I don't think, in terms of telling the story. So he knew my strengths, he knew my weaknesses, he knew what I was capable of. Once we set the date and we were like 4 weeks out, it was like, okay, let's put the match together. Let's figure out what Ricky can and can't do and what's ultimately going to tell a great story. And the story obviously was, I had no chance. Right. And that was one of the things, like, and I know this, I hope this doesn't upset people when I say it because wrestling is sacred and I understand that, but the only thing I told Cody was, look, no matter what kind of match we put together, I said I don't want to win. I said, does it make any sense for me to win? I am not a wrestler. You are a wrestler. The fact that and I said it's Rocky 1. It's the greatest story in the world. Like you get this close. You make them believe for just a second that I could beat this guy who's 25 years in the business, but then I don't, because then you get the sympathy points, and then once we all embrace and everything's good, then yeah, we're fine. Um, so we started putting it together, and I said, I don't care what we do. You're the ringmaster. You're the general. We will we will go, and I will take your lead. So we start putting it together, putting the psychology of it together, and then I won't use the exact words that he used because I don't know if this is a family friendly show or
You
not.
can use the words.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is great. We're in the ring and we're kind of putting things together. And Cody, just you got to know him to know his demeanor. And he goes, "How big are your balls today?" And I go, "I don't know, same as yesterday, I guess." And he goes, "I'll be right back." And and we're in this gym, and he leaves the arena, and he starts carrying this giant cheerleader crash mat. And he goes, "You're gonna do Hurricane Run off the top rope." And I go, "I am?" He goes, "Yeah, it's not so bad. Here's what you do, right?" He's like, "I'm gonna get in the corner. You get up to that second rope." He goes, "You jump as high as you can, and as long as you land on my shoulders, I got you." Right? And I've seen luchadors do this. I've seen people that are far more athletic than me do this. I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna break my neck. I can't, what in the world am I doing? So he shows me how to do it, and I kind of get a little nervous, and I jump, boom, land on his shoulders, fall backwards. He takes the big flip bump. Perfect. And he goes, "Okay, you can do it." Pushes the crash mat out of the ring. He goes, "We're not going to do that again until the day of the show.
Oh.
No crash mat." So I am like excited because, man, I want my friends and my family who are in the arena to go, "What did he
Oh
just do?"
shit.
I want my wife. I had no idea my husband could do that, right? Like it's this really impressive move. These head scissors, boom, flip off the top rope. So I just keep thinking about that the whole time, right? So we leave town for Thanksgiving. We go to my in-laws' house for Thanksgiving. All I can think about is I'm gonna mess this Hurricane up, right?
Mm,
I'm gonna screw it up. I'm gonna fall. I'm gonna get hurt. My mom didn't go to the show, and I didn't expect her to. And I love my mom, and she's wonderful, and she's the best mom in the world. But she's the kind of mom who could not watch this.
right.
You get what I'm saying? Because she
Yeah.
called me the day of, and she was crying, and she was like, "You're gonna get hurt. Please don't get hurt." And I said, "Mom, we practiced this." I said, "It's gonna be great." She wished me luck, and she just says, "You understand I can't be there." I said, "Of course I understand." Um, but it is what it is. But I just kept thinking about the Hurricane Rana. So we get there, it's showtime. I'm helping with production backstage. Leave is there. My friends and my family are there. It's just wonderful. Frank's there. Um,
Frank.
I know, he's the best. It was so cool. And Denise, who's not a wrestling fan, was probably like, "What is all this?" It was a wild night. So we get out there. My friend Kaylee, I sent you a picture of her. She's got the red hair. She's a wonderful musician. I wanted to come out to the song Mighty Wings from Top Gun. So she got to play that song live. So
Oh, nice.
she got to sing me to the ring, which was cool because
Oh,
she
that's
has an
so
amazing voice. And so she got to sing the song, and I got to go out to the ring with her singing it live. The energy was off the charts. So here we are. I'm feeling it now. Like the adrenaline is going. Yeah, that's right before I went through the curtain. That's Jenny. And so um, I just the adrenaline's going. I'm hugging everybody at ringside. Master Fry's there, my kickboxing trainer, my brother, my best friend, all the friends I trained with are there. It's just wonderful. And we get in the ring and we're circling each other and we go to lock up. And I've been working with Cody for 2 years and I was completely thrown off. He was covered in baby oil.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't expecting baby oil. So we lock up and I'm like, oh, I guess
You're
wrestlers do.
greasy.
Wrestlers who actually have a physique, not like me, right? Like nobody's like dad bodding the baby oil, right? Like this is not happening. So we lock up and I'm completely thrown off by the baby oil. And the first kind of 5 minutes of the match is like I'm slippery and he's slippery and like all the like chain wrestling and all that. So 5 minutes in, I get him in a hammerlock, boom, and he's just supposed to kind of throw an elbow. I lean in, elbows thrown, done. I'm out. I'm knocked out. 5 minutes in, on the ground, knocked my contact lens out. I have no clue where I'm at. I'm out. So referee comes over to me and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I go, "I think my contact got knocked out." I get back up. My eye is swollen shut. I'm cut right here. There's blood running down my face. 5 minutes in. And he looked at me and he goes, "Can you continue?" And I said, "I kind of can't see out of this eye." I had no idea what was going on. And you watch it back, it
Were you
is
concussed? Did you have a concussion?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'll get into kind of what the injury was. But I thought to myself as I got back up, I can't see out of one eye. And what the hell? I noticed that my bell rung. Completely had my bell rung. So mom, I'm sorry I got hurt. And number two, I mean, it's just a freak accident. I leaned in. You shouldn't lean in. When wrestlers swing, they want to make it look good, and I
Mm.
didn't roll with the punch. But you can just see that elbow connect with my eye, and I just hit the ground. And you know, I've been in some scrappy situations before in my life. Never have I been had my bell rung like that. And so I hit the ground, but I get back up and he goes, "Can you remember the spot?" And I said, "Yeah." But at that point, everybody can see that there's blood coming out of my eye. And I'm bleeding.
What is Jenny doing at this point?
She has no clue. I mean,
Is she
she's in the
freaking out?
corner. N she's cool as a cucumber, but, like, at that point, I think she probably saw the eye and knew that, like, I had been busted open. What in wrestling, they call it the hard way, right? Because 'Cause you're not using,
Mhm.
the blade gimmick or whatever. And so I don't know if she knew the extent of how bad it was until the end, because I made the decision, after I had my bell rung, to get back up and just do it. Yeah, you can see the cut on my eye. Um, so uh, at that point, everybody's cheering and people are chanting. Um, and I don't know what happened. I just got on autopilot. We did the match. I was a little slow, but we got to the corner. We got to the corner. I got up on the turnbuckle, and it was time to do that Hurricane Rana. And let me tell you, Kelly, nailed it. Nailed it.
Yes.
Absolutely, positively nailed it. And I wish that I had a way to, send that to you so you could share the clip um, with the audience and what have you. And I have my head down because I'm literally thumbing through my phone, but I'm going to show it to you on
Is
camera
it
here.
up anywhere? I was gonna say, is it up anywhere? Because we can also link it in
Yeah,
the
it's on Instagram, so I can definitely send you the Instagram link.
yeah, we will
Um,
link that.
but yeah, nailed it, and you can see it's so funny because you can see the look on my face, is just in shock, and you can see everybody jumping up and down because they thought, "Ah, he never did this in practice. He never did this in training. Where did this come from?" And it's the one clip from the match I can watch back. A lot of it's hard for me to watch back because of the
Mhm.
injury.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the one clip I can watch back and go, "Okay, that's awesome." And, I joke with Jenny about this because, I think every wife to some degree, wants to see their husband as a strong guy, as not just like a provider and a good dad, but like is somebody who can like, he can be a tough guy, right? There's I think there's something to that. And
Mhm.
I think I earned some tough guy credits that night, right? Because we have this sort of in joke where when we're maybe just together there for the first couple years, I had literally the worst toothache I ever had in my life. And every time, it came time to, man up, so to speak, she'd always bring up the toothache. And I'd say, I just had my face caved in. Can we let the toothache thing go? Um, and we agreed on that. We agreed. Well, I would think after all the training, and the bruises on the back and the ribs, we could let the toothache thing go, but we can, because men are notoriously whiny when they get toothaches or whatever. That's
Yes.
that's that's the kind of the
Or
cliche.
a cold. Uh-huh.
Or a cold, yeah, right, exactly. So all those things. So I'm trying to say, well, yeah, but I also have my face caved in. And sure enough, the ride home that night, I was nauseous. They were hungry and they stopped. I remember I never forget this. They went through Wendy's drive-through and just as soon as they opened that window to hand the food, I could smell it and I was just wanted to vomit. And it was very bad. I did the worst thing you could possibly do. I went home and just went to sleep, um,
Mm,
which you shouldn't do. But
yeah.
after I had, kind of an issue later, a few days later, and I started to black out, I went to the ER and they said, well, we need to get you scanned. And I had fractured and cracked my orbital floor,
Oh my god.
and my eye had shifted like a millimeter or something. And they said you're lucky. You cracked it. You that doesn't heal on its own. Your orbital floor is busted, but it's not something you need surgery for. If you were a GQ model or something and you need to show up to work the next day with perfectly straight eyes or whatever, cool. Yeah, we would recommend surgery. But now all they do is they put a little mesh lining in the floor of your eyeball. Um, but they said,
Wow, that's quite an injury. Is that
yeah,
something that later on you'll have issues or it's just
I think it's gonna be fine. It's just don't injure it any further, right? Like, don't do anything
don't
like
take
this
it
ever
from
again.
your elbow to the head?
Yeah. So, when people say, "Aren't you gonna get the itch to do that again?" No, I'm good. I
You
I like
can't.
my face the way it is, and I think I wanna
Yeah.
keep it that way. So that was weird, and I did save all the pictures and stuff like that from the X-rays and all, and it was funky looking, and, you know, it was gnarly. So after it was all said and done, people, I wanted to inspire people. Yeah, you can see the little bit of the blood there. Uh, I wanted my kids to think like, hey, dad did something cool, and this is something that maybe they can tell their grandkids about, even if they're kind of young and maybe they don't fully understand what it meant, right? because Dad's always doing silly stuff. Dad's always like, making movies and, taking us to Comic Cons and dressing up and all those things. But I wanted them to know that, I did something
Is that
that
a
was cool.
tattoo? I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but does Cody have a tattoo of, is that a Transformer?
Voltron.
Voltron. That's
But he
Voltron.
Yeah, but he's a huge Transformers mark, so he does have an, Auto or Decepticons on the other leg, so
Oh, nice. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I just got to, I have tattoos too. So I was like, hey, that's a tattoo.
That was one of the things that I decided to do after wrestling was get a bunch of tattoos, so, um, my whole arm here is covered in nostalgic, 80s cartoon characters too,
That's
so,
awesome.
I've it's kinda like because post 40, I don't care anymore.
Right.
Um, but but there
Oh,
they are. That's
it's,
Nico. It's my son Nico, and that's Pepper. That picture
oh,
was
I love her
taken.
shirt.
Yeah, it says Hot Pepper.
Yeah.
Well, that was a cool picture, and that's actually a funny thing. Is one of the things that Cody decided to do once everything opened back up and people were getting back together. He said, "Man, I've always wanted to do a kids wrestling class. Where kids can come and work out in the ring and learn holds and stuff." And I said, "Well, I know two kids who can be your first students." And they were their first students. And so when
Oh,
he and Shauna got married, they were in Cody's wedding as the flower girl
I
and
love
the
that.
and what do they call the boy? The ring bearer. That's
The
right.
ring bearer.
Yeah. The wrestling ring bearer, if you will. So yeah, they it was cool because again, I got to share it with my friends, but once a week he did the kids class and they would come up with me. And it is a little weird because like they would do their class and then I would train, and then part of training of course is selling and faces, and so they would just be sitting there playing Nintendo Switch, right, while I'm in the ring going nah, right. It was just like, oh, it's just something dad does, right, and
Yeah.
then they don't think anything of it. It's the coolest thing, man. They're super awesome. But yeah, and then they wound up in Cody's wedding and all that, which was
That's
just
amazing.
super cool.
So in doing this, Phil brought up a point where he said people always say that wrestling's fake and they just don't get it.
No,
Right.
no, they don't.
Did it give you another, like a different appreciation for wrestling, going, not just going through the training, but like actually having this match and knowing like I just got, my bell rung and I have to continue this match.
Yeah, I mean,
And then
that's the
I have
thing.
to wrestle tomorrow too. And then the next day.
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. I got to, go home and, live a normal life for the next couple weeks or whatever. Not only is the physical part is grueling, it's tough. Like I said, his goal that first time I walked in there was to make me quit so he'd go to Florida, right? And he'll tell you that with a straight face, like this. I thought this kid was an idiot, and maybe I was, but the other part of it too is just the mental part of it, right? Like, when you're in there training, you got to memorize things. You got to remember your cues. We would do this drill where, guy would run and you'd have to leapfrog and then you'd run back and then he'd leapfrog behind you. And it seems very simple when you're looking at it, but you have to focus because if you don't focus and you run the wrong way, he's going to land right in your head. And it happened plenty of times. And again, putting the match together, being able to listen, being able to have a feeling for, reading someone's body language, that if they're going to shoot you off and you're expecting a hip toss or an arm drag, you just have to be able to read their body language and then be able to perform the move safely. So it's like, yes, there's that physical component that hurts, but there's that mental component where you have to be sharp because if you're not paying attention, it's like driving times 10.
Mhm.
You have to be aware of everything that's going on around you. And when you land, when you fall, turn this way. Never take your eye off of them no matter how you landed. Unbelievable. I have so much respect for the people that do this on any level, whether it's a television level or a local level. These people are phenomenal. They're phenomenal. They're special people, and not everybody can do it. I mean, they can't. I was very lucky, and my heart was in the right place. But let me tell you, like full time, don't know how I would last. Don't know how I would last. I probably wouldn't. Maybe on a commentator, maybe being the mean gene of the organization or something like that. I could probably
Right.
do that all day long. In fact,
Manager.
because I was helping out for a little while but my schedule got so busy when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl that I was doing backstage interviews, right? And I would say, I'm here with so and so, and let's talk about your match this coming up, And I was pretty good at it, and they kind of recognized that. And Cody actually told me, he said, "Man, we have these two guys. They're these big jacked up dudes. They're brothers. They have a phenomenal look. These long dreads. They're called the Crown." He goes, "But man, I think you'd be an awesome manager for these guys." And I
Oh,
said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm kind of into it, right?" And ultimately, just I got busy, schedule got busy. I couldn't commit to what they needed me to do as a dad, as a guy who's working 2 jobs at the time. I couldn't do it. However, I was talking to Jenny about this. I said, "It's probably good that I didn't." And I said, not that it wouldn't have been fun, it would have been a blast. I said, "But I'm an old school wrestling fan. I watched the old school territory stuff, and man, they wanted me to be a bad guy, and I can be the baddest bad guy. And I can get I could I would have we would have set that building on fire because I can go and I can talk and I can turn up the heat and it's probably a good thing because I said, I got hit in the eye, but I said I'd hate for a fan to know which car I drive and slash my tires because if they don't, then are you really a bad guy wrestler, right? Um, and so in a lot of ways, because again, I would have given it my all. Oh, you want the fans to hate them? Here we go, right? This is gonna be fun. And I
yeah.
probably would have had too much fun with it, and I probably would have had my tires slashed. So I'm glad kind of maybe that I didn't do it. Um, but trust me, I miss it. I miss working out in the ring. I miss all of that stuff. I miss being backstage with the dudes and the ladies. It was just such a great experience, and something I'll always cherish. And really the icing on the cake, because again, I really have to give so much credit to Chief Master Fry and him pushing me to sign up for the kickboxing class because I would not have had the confidence to do it without taking his kickboxing class. The confidence and the cardio, right? Because the
Mhm.
cardio in kickboxing, he always says 45 minutes just for you, 700-calorie burn, let's go. And you're on that bag and you're kicking, and you're not only kicking, but he's teaching you to kick properly and to punch properly. And you're doing push-ups and you're doing sprawls and you're getting back up and mountain climbers and back on the bags. If I hadn't done that for a year, there's no way I would have had the confidence and the cardio to do it. In fact, I had Team Frank on my gear, but I also asked Master Fry. I said, "Hey, I really want to put the Master Fry Defense Systems logo on the gear because I couldn't have done this without you." And so my son who's a black belt, my daughter who's a red belt, we were at their quarterly testing, proud as can be. Just watch your kids like break boards and do their forms. It's just amazing. It's such a great discipline. And we're sitting there and all the other families are there and everybody's there. And Master Fry gets up in front of everybody. He says, I don't give this award out often. I call it the Perseverance Award. And he pulls out this plaque and he's talking about like perseverance and goals and dreams. And then he looks at me and I'm like, I'm just a parent. Like I just do the kickboxing class. This is for Taekwondo students. But he called me up and he gave me the Perseverance Award. And
Oh,
I'm not much a crier, man, but like I was holding it back that
yeah.
day because I have this black eye, you know, my eyes all swollen.
Broken.
Yeah, my face is broken, but I was so happy that day to get that award because I didn't see it coming. I wasn't expecting it.
But you deserve.
But man, like what a great thing, and coming from him, right? Who was just somebody that, like, I grew to admire his accomplishments in the martial arts world and all the great things that he had done with my kids, and how he turned my son around, really, kind of into the like proper young man that he is today, who's just smashing boards and
Mm,
polite as can be, right? Because martial arts is more than just kicking and punching. It's about there it is, which is about character and and living being a productive member of society. And so I'll never forget that day. I was so happy, and the plaque was just wonderful. And we even got Cody to come down a couple during the Taekwondo summer camp to teach the kids some wrestling. And so
oh, that's awesome.
and so we've all became good friends. Look how enthusiastic Pepper is there. She's just like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll get in a photo.
I picture
But
it.
well, yeah, I guess the eye was kind of healing up a little bit by then.
Oh man.
but it
That's
was something.
amazing.
But
That's
you know what? I'm super happy with where I am. You know, I'm always going to be connected to wrestling somehow, some way. You know, I'm no longer in the t-shirt business, but every once in a while, people will tap on my shoulder for some t-shirt stuff. And just like 3 weeks ago, Ryan Barkin from Pro Wrestling Tees said, "Hey, you know, we need some designs, some fresh stuff. What you got?" And I kind of saw that these guys, the Acclaimed, were real hot on AEW, and so I made a T-shirt that the A was the scissors and all that. It's like one of the best selling shirts on AEW right now, right?
oh,
Like I did that, so it's like,
that's
yeah, I'm
awesome.
always going to be connected to wrestling in some way, shape, or form. You know, if I you know, write more movies or you know make more TV shows or whatever I do, you know, there's always going to be some kind of nod or wink to pro wrestling. But so glad I did it. So glad I met you. So glad that you know it made the waves that it did, and we raised the money that it did. Um, because that's really something we didn't talk about, and it's the hardest thing to talk about, right? Is like, you know, Ricky, why did you pick this? Well, yeah, I mean, when the world's locking down and everything is, you know, stay home, stay safe, all of that, I get it, I understand it, but my heart went out to the people who were unable to see the people that they needed to see, to touch the people they needed to touch in order to keep going. It had to have been the most difficult thing in the world for people who are suffering from depression to be told you can't leave your house, you can't see your friends, you can't see your mother, you can't see your grandmother, you can't go have a drink when you're feeling low. Um, and I know that because that's and I don't shy too much away from saying it, but that's something that I don't personally deal with, but it's something that my spouse deals with.
Hmm.
And so, you know, to do this was not only to, you know, be a symbol for the cause and to raise money for this foundation, but to be a living, breathing symbol of hope for my wife. And, you know, we joke about the toothache, but, you know, I wanted to be that hero. I wanted to be somebody who doesn't understand it completely because I don't deal with it. I'm a very happy-go-lucky fellow. I let stuff roll off of me, and I realize not everybody does that. But
But
even
you
though
do
I did
deal with it because your spouse, you live with it with your spouse, you know.
right,
So
yes, and it's not anything I ever hold against anybody, and you know, we fight together. And but I wanted this to be a symbolic thing where I was literally fighting, right? And in solitude and almost like I don't know, self-sacrificial in a way, right? You know, that like I'm not going through the same kind of pain you're going through, but I'm going to go through some pain
yeah,
for you, for the cause. And we did it. And we did
yeah,
it. And we're living to tell about it. And I'm glad that a year later that I can come back and say, hey, you know, it's still touching people. And I will say this if it's the last thing that I say, like you know, this is the cliche thing to say, "Hey, you know, get help, call this number, call a friend." It's true, you know. There is nothing that is insurmountable, I promise. And I've been at the bottom. I've been as low as somebody could go. And you know what? You can do it. You can climb out of it. Um, whatever it takes, you know. I just tell people don't give up, you know, because I am in theory, you know, I'm happy to be on this podcast and I'm happy to see my name up there. You know, Ricky Henry's our guest or whatever. But like I'm nobody, right? Like I'm just a dad who works 9 to 5, you know, in Cincinnati, Ohio. Um, but you can do it. You can live the dream and you can get out there. You can accomplish what your heart desires as long as your head and your heart's in the right place. And I tell people too, you know, I've had people who associate me with this disease, with this cause, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. I'm happy to give pointers. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I have lived through a lot, and
yeah. And
I've
sometimes
stared it in
people
the
just
face.
need to know that there is somebody out there that will listen. And, you know, some people just want to be heard and want to tell their story and, you know, want to be validated too, you know, in what they're feeling or whatever. But you know, it's what I'm going to do is I'm going to link your match in case anybody wants to see it. We'll link it in the description of the page. But I'm also going to link, I know it's an international show, but I'm going to put in the description the number for the National Suicide Hotline, in case anybody out there is struggling and needs to talk to someone, that it's there for them also. It's really, it's, there's nothing that bad. Like it will get better and you just have to hang on. And, you know, if you're all the way at the bottom, there's nowhere else to go but up, right? So it'll get better.
For sure. And it's the toughest thing I think is to think that there is nobody out there that cares about you or loves you, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I am the kind of person who when I meet you and you're my friend, you're like my family, and I love you like a brother always. So, you know, n- that's all I can really say is just, try to fight off the demons, try to, because it's all in your head. A lot of it is just you get trapped in your own head. And if you can clear the cobwebs and you can fight the demons off, make them go away, the sun will come out. The sun will come out. And this time of year, especially tough because it's the holidays. Where I'm at, it's like dark at 5 o'clock. It's just the
Right.
worst.
Yeah. It's the worst. Get the, what's it called? Seasonal,
Affective
depression.
disorder is
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Because it does get dark and you're like, oh man, what time is it? Oh, it's 5:30.
Right. So
Yeah.
you have to, and that's why somebody says like Christmas lights are such a big thing because, you know, you go around, you look at Christmas lights because it's light, right?
Right.
And I think that's why we do that. We light up the tree and light up our house and all of that stuff, because it helps. But yeah,
Definitely.
um, and ultimately too, at the end of the day, right? Like I want to say this, and this is so important to me, is that you know if you are someone who is struggling, I promise you that there is somebody who will be an ear. Could be anybody, and it could be anybody. If anyone, whether I've known them, like I said, for 5 minutes or 5 years or 30 years, if they came to me and they said, "Look, I'm in a dark place, I want to talk," I can't imagine anybody who would not sit there and listen.
Right.
People will listen. People do love you. I love you. So I don't even know you, and I love you. So there you have it.
And I agree. And Phil brings up a good point that reaching out is the hardest thing, and it does take a lot of courage.
Yeah.
But there is someone to listen to you. And if you do feel like you don't want to reach out to someone that you know or a loved one, like I said, there are hotlines that you can call and talk to someone who does care and wants what's best for you because you're human and they want what's best for you. Um, I do want to take the stigma away from mental health and mental health issues because it does take courage and it is, I think men especially have a hard time reaching out. And I believe statistically, men are the highest number of suicide rate in the United States. I don't know about internationally. Um, there's a lot of pressure put on men, to be the provider, to make the money and to make sure everything's right. And so also there's pressure on men not to show feelings and not to have emotions. And I think anger is the only safe emotion for men to show. And for some reason, that's what our society feels like. Anger's okay, but you're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to feel sadness or feel bad about something, or, but anger's okay. And, it is okay. It's okay to cry. I tell that to my son all the time. I'm like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to have feelings and it's okay to feel those feelings. Um, But what we also need to do is to give people tools of what to do with those feelings and how to feel those feelings and how to bring yourself, out of that if you're feeling a certain way. Phil, you also asked a question to Ricky about healing. And you said that I think you said your brother or your cousin snapped his younger brother just snapped his Achilles the other day. That is a horrible injury. Would you agree that the road to recovery is more of a mental game?
I mean, yeah, yeah, yes and no. For sure. It depends on the injury too. I mean, look, I think a lot of times, especially with things like maybe substance abuse and narcotics and all, I think a lot of that can be more mental than anything, right? But with an injury like that, yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of. I mean, look, it took me a lot of push from people around me to say, I know you had your face caved in. Go get yourself scanned. Go see an eye specialist, right? I didn't want to, and I think with something like that, if it's an ankle injury, Achilles injury, go to getting yourself to go to physical therapy takes a lot of mental like prep to be like, this is going to suck, this is going to hurt, this is going to be awkward and uncomfortable to go to the physical therapy and all of that, but it's part of the healing process. It's just getting the courage up to do that. So I would say yeah. I mean, but I also would say I'm not a doctor either. So and I'm lucky. Look, I got to tell you, I'm lucky. I like, other than like some skinned elbows on the playground as a kid, that was the first time I've ever really truly been injured. um I played sports through school and basketball and even wrestling around in the backyard, we never really got hurt. So, I'm very lucky that I've never had anything like that before. Made it 40 years really without any real bones broken or anything like that. I think maybe the worst thing ever was like a really bad stomach bug that I had to get an IV for or whatever when I was a little, but I was been very lucky, to not have any serious injuries throughout the years. First time for everything. So,
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
people say, would you? I would, but the injury sucked. The eye thing sucked. Wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, even even if I could go back, because here's a secret, right? We were supposed to do a spot where he threw me out of the ring, and I was going to do it. I was going to do the little cut your head, right? Get the blood. At that point, I had so much blood on my face. I was like, I don't need to do that.
We can skip that one. I'm already bleeding.
Yeah, I'm good.
It's amazing. I really am very thankful that you came on the show and were able to tell your story. And it'll be out there now. Your kids can go back and look at this whenever they want and see it. And I'm glad that it brought us together and that now you're like a part of this community now, because
Yeah,
now we all know who you are now. And even though you do have Cobra Commander over your shoulder there,
I did that on purpose. I got this for Christmas last year from my brother, and it's amazing because you can actually see through it. It's so cool.
oh, that is awesome.
It's
That's
so great. It's wonderful. Yes, I did that on purpose. It's a total troll move.
very
Um,
cool.
but yeah, I'm always going to be connected to this community, and I love it. And your dad is amazing. I wanted to tell you that, like, my favorite thing that your dad ever did, the most nostalgic Sarge the Slaughter moment in the world, is when Sarge was on the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. It's my favorite Sarge the Slaughter moment of all time because I love Captain Lou. I love Super Mario. It is the best. It's my favorite.
Of that. I was there when they filmed that.
Wow, you were
Yeah.
on the set?
I was on set and it was my first like look into behind the scenes. And I was sitting at the monitors and I was flipping back and forth like what I would see on TV. Like when one person's talking, the camera's on them, and then when the other person's talking, it's on them. And so I was flipping back and forth and I'm literally in the director's chair.
That's
I
awesome.
didn't know that at the time, but I'm in the director's chair and he says to me something about like you'd be a really good director because that's what I would be doing. or whatever. Now he could have totally been blowing smoke up my ass, you know what I mean? And just like because I was Sarge's daughter and all of that, but I was like, really? I could do this? Now obviously I did not get in. I'm not a director,
Well,
but it was still really cool to see that behind the scenes.
that's amazing. That's so cool, and that's how my kids know Sergeant Slaughter because that Mario show lives on through Netflix and all
Yeah.
these streaming services. And like Mario is this timeless character, like bigger than Mickey Mouse, in my opinion, in this modern age. And so when they watch it, and I told them I was like, when they saw this shirt, they're like, "That's the guy from the Super Mario show." I'm like, "It's a little
I,
more than that, but yes, yes, he was on that show."
that's
Um,
awesome.
it's great. It's wonderful. Yes, I'm so happy to be plugged into this community. I will forever be plugged into this community. And so, for anybody who wants to kind of stay in touch with what I do, I am a designer by trade. That's my full-time job. Do motion graphics, do graphic design, do t-shirt design. I do it all. That's how I make my living. Like I said, if you bought the new AEW acclaimed shirt, that's mine. I did that. Any of the Frank shirts and stuff. So you can actually look at my portfolio at rickyhenry.com. You can follow me on all the social medias. I'm
Yeah.
there. I'm always posting pictures. What's that?
Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, okay, cool. So rickyhenry.com is where I keep all my graphic design and video work. So if you want to look at some t-shirts I've made and some of the graphics and illustrations I've done over the years, you can, it's kind of the one centralized place where people can go and kind of look at my body of work. On Facebook, it's just Ricky Henry. And then on Instagram, it's at Virtua Ricky, VIRTUARICKY, Virtua Ricky. Like Virtua Fighter. There was a game that Sega made back in the day called Virtua Fighter, Virtua Racing. It's Virtua Ricky. It's my Sega throwback. But yeah, it's mostly just pictures of my kids and our wacky adventures. Like, have you ever been to a Bucky's before?
Yes,
We just went to a
I have.
Bucky's yesterday.
I
Wow,
have.
that's awesome. Yeah, so like you go to my Instagram, it's just me and my family hanging out at Bucky's on our way back from Knoxville yesterday. So um
Nice.
but I do post design stuff and all of that, and it's good. But I love to stay in touch with people. And again, I'm very serious when I say, hey man, I listen, hey, I listen to the show, I listen to what you and Kelly were talking about, and you want to talk about anything, something bothering you, cool. Shoot me a message. If I don't get back to it right away, it's probably because I'm chasing a kid around. I had this long talk before I came up here. I was like, the dogs have to stay quiet. Please don't fight. So what we did was we started putting the Christmas tree up and we got about halfway done. Then we ate the breakfast. And then I was like, well, I go upstairs and do the show. You finish putting the ornaments up on the tree. And the fact that I haven't heard any fighting between the two is like kind of amazing. It's kind
That's
of
awesome.
awesome.
Well, that's good. So they're being good for dad.
They are. They're being super good.
That's awesome. Well, kids, keep being good for your dad and listen to what he says because he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, for the most part. But I like to think of myself as a pretty fun dad, and they are good kids all in all. It's the martial arts, actually. It's the martial arts is the best thing. I just spilled my drink everywhere. Anyway,
Oh no.
it's okay. It's all right.
Oh no.
It's fine. Anyway, but it's the martial arts. It's such a great discipline, and not only does it build obviously strength and confidence, but just great character for the kids. And so it was like the best decision ever. And it's so cool to watch my daughter, 8 years old, go in there and beat up the boys. It's wonderful. When they do sparring, I can tell she just kicks a little harder when she's sparring the boys. It's wonderful.
He's after my own heart, that one. I
Yeah.
love it. Because that's what I wanted when I was little. I wanted to be a wrestler like my dad, but I wanted to beat the boys. I didn't want to wrestle the women. I wanted to wrestle the men.
Yeah. So even
So
though
I
they've got the sparring gear on, they're all padded up. I can just tell when she's, squaring up against those boys, she kicks a little harder.
she's
And I
a
love
hot pepper, that one.
it.
Ricky, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was such a pleasure. I loved hearing your story.
Thank
And
you.
maybe we'll have you on again and you can tell us about your collection you got behind me there.
It's preposterous. I've been collecting video games for many years. Although my wife has this section of just My Little Pony, right? But you pull anything off the shelf and there's virtual racing. I was talking about. So 40 years of video game collecting. I've never gotten rid of anything. But yeah, lots of action figures and goofy stuff up there. So Yeah, maybe we'll come back and we'll do a room tour at some point.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be really cool. And right before the pandemic hit, Jenny and I, we ran a show in Cincinnati called Cincy Classic, and it was a celebration of like retro video games, Nintendo, Atari, Sega. And we were going to do a really second big show follow up in 2020, but you know how that all went. We had to cancel it, and everything kind
Mhm.
of went to hell. But we might bring back Cincy Classic retro video game show in Cincinnati in a couple years. And I mean, I could think of a couple fun guests and celebrities maybe we could have come to the show and sign autographs. Just thinking out loud, but we'll talk about that later.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Definitely keep us in mind. Gaz sent you a follow request on Instagram, so keep an eye out for that.
We'll do.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'll let you get back to your kids and finish decorating that tree with them.
I want to post a picture of the tree on Instagram. There's your tease right there.
Yes, do it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us. And now you know. See you next time, everybody. Bye.
Slaughter daughter's a badass bitch.
As you were.